Welcome to this Chicory Lane eBird system tutorial. In the earlier Getting Started tutorial, we showed how to access the Chicory Lane eBird system, and we pointed out several tutorials that are available to help the new user learn the system. We also showed the basic cycle of interaction that the tools support. That is, we showed how one could open up a eBird observation search form where data can be entered to define a search, and we showed how such data can be viewed or scanned within that particular context. We also showed an eBird map using Google Maps application. We showed how one could click on the map to define a point that could then be used as a starting point for eBird search. In this tutorial, we'll focus on the function that is available in each of these separate windows and those functions that can be used to send data between the two. We begin with the eBird observation search window. It's a web form in which one can enter data to perform a search through eBird, a set of buttons that can be used to invoke the search, a message display area that can be used to provide information to the user regarding both successful and unsuccessful searches, and finally a display area where the results of a search can be displayed and manipulated for viewing. That area is not shown, but will in just a moment. So we'll begin and go through each of these collections of functional components and talk about how one can use each one. We'll start with the input fields at the top of the form. There are some half dozen of which the user can enter data, though not every field will be used in every search. All searches begin with a latitude or longitude value, which defines an area of search, or is the center of an area of search. One can type in a particular latitude and a particular longitude if one knows such, but more often than not the user is likely to select a point on a map or enter an address on a map and have the map application generate that those latitude and longitude values. So we'll show how to do that. Here is the map. Here is Chicory Lane Farm in it. If you click a point, then that creates a latitude longitude location. Those values will be made available to the observation search form. So simply by clicking latitude and longitude for a point that exists in the eBird map, transfers those values and inserts them into the form. The days back can range from 0 to 30 days, and so we'll enter a value, in this case 30, and then finally we can define a radius in which the search will take place. This can be up to a maximum of 50 kilometers, which is about 30 miles. So we'll enter 5 kilometers, which is about 3 miles. The fifth field is a drop-down menu, and in this case we've said that we want it to locate all sightings that occur beginning at this point, extending out 5 kilometers, going back for 30 days. And so if we do the search, then those results will appear at the bottom in table form. Back in a moment to talk further about the fields for inputting data to perform a search, but for now let's jump down and talk about the search results that were obtained from our first set of entry values. The table is divided into some 6 or 7 different columns: the common name, the scientific name for each sighting, the number of birds that were observed, the date, the latitude and longitude that go along with the particular location that was named in the search. The items are returned, the sightings are returned in random order, but by clicking on common name, the whole table is resorted into ascending order on the basis of common name. Hence, American crow followed by goldfinch, followed by kestrel, etc. It also includes a scientific name, and the table can similarly be reordered according to that. The numbers is the number of sightings and number of birds seen in each sighting, and that's interesting. If we put that into descending order, we can see the most frequent birds that were seen, in this case the red-winged blackbird. We can see the date of the sighting, the latitude, longitude, and then the named location for the sighting. Before we continue discussing the function that's available in the search form fields above, let's take a closer look at some of the function available through the display data area itself. If we scroll the display area a little bit more so that we can see some of this function, we can note one of our favorite birds, the Carolina wren, and if we click on the scientific name for that, we'll notice that it changes these two fields in the search form above. It transfers the scientific species name to this field, and it changes the drop-down menu option from all, meaning return all sightings for all birds, return sightings for all birds in the display area for the duration specified, to saying let's search only for occurrences or sightings of this particular species, in this case the Carolina wren. So if we search for it, we'll see that it identified only a single instance of the Carolina wren within this particular area. It occurred at Muddy Paws Marsh, and it occurred on February the 5th. If we decided that we would like to center a search not at Chicory Lane Farm but Muddy Paws Marsh, keep your eye on the latitude and longitude, but if we click on either the latitude, longitude, or that particular location, it'll change the search origin point to those particular coordinates. So let's go back, and we'll go back to all species observed, and let's change our area of inquiry to, let's say, 5 miles or about 9 kilometers. If we then search in that area, we'll see that some 58 birds were found, and we would be able to show the area and the birds that resulted. So we have two options that we've seen here, the all and the species. We can also specify notable, which is eBird's term for rare birds, or at least rare in this area. We don't need the species. We'll look at any bird or all birds that are defined by eBird as notable for this particular area, which is this latitude, longitude, 30 days back, and 5 miles in radius. So if we search for that, we'll see again that there's only one notable bird in that area, which is the brown thrasher. The last option that is available is that we can look for hotspots. These, of course, are areas that have been noted by and approved by eBird on the basis of recommendations from citizen science participants in the project to identify areas that are open to the public, not necessarily public, they can be private land, but visitors or birders are welcome to come and bird at these locations. So we can say that we wish to go back to, or go out in an area of 5 miles here. If we put days back, then it will show us only hotspots for which there has been at least one observation in this time. If we take that off and make it effectively 0, then it will show us any and all hotspots, regardless of whether anything has been, any sightings have taken place there. So if we search for hotspots, we can see that we've identified some 11 different hotspots in this area. Before we leave the sighting search form, let's talk just a bit about the buttons that are in the middle of the form. Based on the parameters that are entered into the various data fields, the search button causes the form to submit the data to eBird. eBird performs a search, returns the data to the form, and that data is then formatted and shown in the display area below. Clear sets all of the values in the form to blank. Reset sets all the values in the form to whatever data they had when the form was actually loaded. The map area takes the latitude, longitude, and the distance out values and creates a circle that it then displays as a shaded area in the map so that one could see precisely the geographic area that was searched. Map results takes each of the sightings and creates a point or marker on the map so that one can see the position of the sighting, and also the marker has a pop-up field that can show a summary of the actual data. Before we leave the sighting search form and go to the map and demonstrate the function that's available there, let's get a little bit more data, interesting data to take over there. So I'm going to put in the name of the species name for the Carolina wren, which is one of my favorite birds. We'll search for species and we'll go back 30 days. And so let's see what sightings of Carolina wrens we have. For some reason this is typically a fairly slow search. So we'll give it a few minutes, a few seconds, and we see 2 sightings, Egg Hill and Muddy Paws. Okay, we're now going to leave the search form and go to the map, but we're going to carry this data with us. So we'll first of all transfer the area data, the latitude, longitude, and the radius, so that it can show us graphically that area on the map, and then we'll carry the map results, which will be the 2 sightings and associated data with that. So now we'll go to the map. We'll click in the background of the map itself, and we have a pop-up menu, and we can do 3 things connected with eBird. We can import the search area, which shows us the area that was searched. We can import the search results that shows us both the location and the data for the individual sightings, and we can also delete all markers. So first of all, we'll import the search results. Oops, for some reason we've lost those, so we'll bring them over again. And we'll import the search results. And we see it automatically scales it, so it's a much more of a zoom out perspective. And this is the center of the search location. Chicory Lane Farm. This is being a distance of about 2 miles. We'll now bring the results, and we'll see that part of the results is hidden under the marker for the center of the search. And so we see Carolina wren, 4 numbers, latitude, longitude. And we can look at the other location, which is on Egg Hill Road, and only a single bird was shown there. So a few Carolina wrens in this area, but not very much. If we click on a marker with the right button, that will remove it. If we click on it with the left button, if there's more than one marker close by, then it spreads them, but if we click on one of those, then it shows us the data. If we right click on the search area, it removes that. And finally, we can clear all of these markers by the global delete all marks. So one way of locating a position for search is to zoom in and out, drag the map, and click. We can also go to the search location field and type in an address. It can be the name of a town or a city or a county or a street address. In this case, we're going to use a town in North Carolina where we sometimes search, called Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and using the Google completion function, we can select that, and it will immediately move the map to that location, creates a marker for that particular position, some arbitrary central point in Chapel Hill, and it shows us that whole area. That's interesting, or that's useful actions. If we then go back to the search form, and we can say, okay, let's use that latitude, longitude, and it jumps from 40 to 35 in the longitude from 77 to 79. We'll leave it at 30 days and 5 miles, and we'll change this to all. Well, let's first of all, we'll leave it as species, and we'll look for Carolina wrens 500 miles south of central Pennsylvania. And we find 101 instances of the Carolina wren. Well, that's pretty interesting. Is that an effect of migration? It's early March and appear to be a lot more birds in North Carolina, or Carolina wrens in North Carolina, than in central Pennsylvania. It could also be a function of the number of observers. There may simply be more birders down here. But at any rate, let's carry over, let's carry over the area and the map results. And so if we go here, we can show the search area. So there again is our shaded area. And then if we read the search results, we see literally 100 or more. Any one of those, this was shown at Chapel Hill, Route 141. Let's see if we can find anything more interesting. New Hope waterfowl impoundment looks like an interesting area. Here's the Mason Farm Biological Reserve. That was one that I was looking for. There were 3 wrens there, but that's an extremely rich area for doing searches. And so one of the things we can do is that, having selected that particular point, if we go back now to our observation area, we'll bring the latitude and longitude of that point in, and we'll cut this back down to, let's just say 5 miles. 5 kilometers, and we'll look for all, and we'll just see how many birds are seen at this Mason Farm Biological Reserve. So now we'll do our search, and we find 86 birds shown there. Let's go back and clear the map, and then we'll bring these data over, and then we go back and we can import the area. So here's Mason Farm, and you can see the scale has gotten bigger so that we see a more magnified view of that area. If we look at the search results, then we find things not so many. Well, let's see. Here's Mason Farm, and here are 38 different species in Mason Farm itself, and 130 total birds. So we could look around and see those. And so we can imagine a kind of evolving conversation with the data, where we search central Pennsylvania, notice a few Carolina wrens, but not very many. Go down to North Carolina, search for Carolina wrens, get over 100 sightings. We go to one particular location down there and we search for all birds, and we find a very rich set of observations with, in this case, 38 species and 132 birds. So in addition to seeing how we can use functions individually, we can now get some sense of how we can use these functions in combination to carry on an inquiry that can be quite interesting, either before the fact or after the fact of an actual birding expedition to the outside.